Okay, so welcome to the latest edition of our podcast. And
First edition.
First edition, yeah, probably. And I've got my colleague Dhruv with me.
Hi.
And as you can see, he has some modifications on his body. So, Dhruv, what's that? Can you just tell our audience what happened?
Well, very quickly, I went from riding motorcycles to talking about them for now. So yeah, I think that's how things have happened.
But no, tell them that it's not because of the ADAS story, because a lot of people were upset
Oh,
about
okay.
the ADAS
So
thing. We used him as
Shivank
a crash test
has
dummy.
been
So.
worried for the longest amount of time that people are like going to be saying that he made me stand there, but no, that's not the case. I mean, it was done willingly, and this has not happened because of an ADAS test. This has happened because of an ADV test, and I think we'll talk more about it as we move forward.
So this is the topic of our, this is the topic that we are going to discuss about today. So the main thing is ADV is a part of it. So what we are going to discuss today is what's the best kind of bike for Indian road conditions. So
Nice.
don't say ADV because we have seen what you have done to yourself. So right, we don't want an ADV. I mean, I don't know. Okay, chalo. Joke aside.
We'll start.
So tell me what, according to you, is the best kind of motorcycle. I'm not saying a particular brand. I just want you to tell me.
What you have done here, Shivank, is you've like opened up a can of worms, because obviously I don't think I can say what's the best type of motorcycle for Indian conditions, but I think I can say what's the best type of motorcycle for me, and that necessarily is not going to be everyone's choice. Obviously, that goes. But I think if I had to pick one right off the bat, any motorcycle, any condition, and I'm not just talking India, I think I'm just talking about the world here because that's how it works for me. It would be a roadster, a naked motorcycle. I think that's, and this is something I believe because I have owned roadsters, naked motorcycles all my life. I've had the pleasure of being able to ride a lot of other types of motorcycles, and I enjoy each and every one of them. But I think roadsters are what, like, I immediately can sit on a roadster and be comfortable. Okay, let's ride this motorcycle. If it's like an ADV, it's going to be tall, I'm going to be sitting on it, I'm going to be trying to find my balance point. If it's a super sport, I'm going to be sitting on it thinking that my back's going to be hurting tomorrow. So that's why I think like a roadster is the kind of motorcycle which just puts me at ease, and I think that's really what motorcycling is all about for me.
I think, okay, so personally, if I have to answer this question, I was thinking about it before we discuss the topic. I was thinking, like, what bike should I say or what category should I say? So I used to think that ADVs are the best motorcycles for India because we have bad roads, we don't have racetracks, and modern ADVs are too good. I mean, if you ride them around a corner, they feel like a sports bike.
True.
They have that sort of handling and electronics and everything they have. But then again, coming back to the point, ADVs are great if you're buying a big bike, I'd say, right? So that also depending on your budget. I'd say if I have to buy a bike within 3 lakh rupees, there is no real ADV in that sense. Yeah. Okay, the Himalayan is there, KTMs are there, but maybe in that category, I'd probably choose a roadster or a naked motorcycle. Middleweight is something where, again, I think I'd be confused between a roadster or an, not ADV, but a sports tourer like the F900 XR or something like that, which is not a serious ADV, but it is a touring motorcycle. Yeah. And then if you go further up, then probably I'd want something like a big ADV, like the 1250 GS or the Multistrada V4. Those are the bikes. So I think for me personally, again, it changes across segments. So do you think that that's the right way to go about it?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you on that front. When I said a roadster, okay, I failed to imply this one condition. I've never been a fan of big motorcycles. I mean, this might sound as blasphemy to some. I have always loved something like a 250cc or like a 400cc. I mean, that's where I find that in Indian conditions, at least, where someone like us whose first job is not riding. I mean, we are writers, we work as an automotive journalist, we have a lot of things that we need to do as work, and we do not have the kind of time to uh, upskill ourselves to that level where you can say riding a motorcycle is my first job. Yes, we all love to ride motorcycles. And in that sense, I think getting to grips with something like a liter class is something that is, I mean, it's going to take a lot of time. So, I mean, if I would say buy like a Hayabusa or something today, and it would take me like 5 years to probably stop feeling afraid of that motorcycle. That's the amount of time it will take me to ride it enough. So as I said, a roadster, if you were to tell me, hey, you can buy a Street Fighter V4, I would not buy that motorcycle, because I think a Street Fighter V4, while it is an engineering marvel, and every time I look at it, I'm just like left like, wait, anyone who's just ridden this, what must they feel like? I think it's lost the joy of being a roadster for me, because it's no longer a motorcycle I sit on and I feel comfortable. Does that say that I cannot ride big bikes? No, I've actually been for the past 1 year having I've gotten to ride like a lot of big bikes, and I do enjoy them. And I think with modern day electronics, you can be absolutely silly with them and still get away. One motorcycle that comes to mind is the 850 GS. I mean, I think I rode it in April last year when I went to Kerala. The F900 XR was also a part of that ride. And I came away. So there was this person, Chaco. I mean, a lot of people know him. And he saw me, and I told him, this is the first time I'm riding a big motorcycle. And he's like, at least you don't look like one, because I think riding a motorcycle, I've always been the slow and steady approach. Seeing my arm, a lot of you might
That's
not
not true, by
agree.
the way, but still.
Yes, but my approach has always been like, if it's specifically something that like going from a 200, 250cc, 400cc or later class, it's going to be a massive difference in the amount of power and everything you're handling. So even if you have a good level of skill when you're riding a motorcycle, you still need to be careful about things like, it's going to catch me by surprise. Am I going to be able to deal with that reflex? These are questions I ask myself every time I get on a big motorcycle.
You know what, like roadsters or nakeds, I thought earlier that they are probably the most boring motorcycles, to be very frank with you, because we have grown up seeing those all doom bikes, fully fed motorcycles, Ducatis or Hayabusas or bikes like those. So I always used to think that when I grow up, I have to buy a super sports bike, right? But then because of this job, I've now experienced virtually every motorcycle and across different segments. So again, a liter class motorcycle, a sports bike, is great on the track, is phenomenal. I mean, you don't want to trade it for anything else. Like on the track, you think that, I'll sell my kidney and I'll buy this bike, because you feel like a racer, right? That even irrespective of the kind of skill set you have, when you ride a motorcycle around a racetrack, in a controlled environment, you think like you are the bloody Mark Marquez of that track. Whatever. Like I think the kind of boost that thing gives, in the sense adrenaline boost that bike gives you, I think that is, you can't compare it with anything else. But the moment you put a sports bike on Indian roads, especially, so I think they are out of their depth, in the sense, you can't really utilize that motorcycle, and you look like an idiot, because every time you ride that motorcycle, you're like fully crouched, and people are looking at you like, this idiot is riding in Delhi, Noida, and like this kind of heat, or the weather is really extreme here. So I think that's one of the problems. So that was one of the reasons why I thought, okay, sports bikes are a little one-dimensional. So what's the next best thing? So next best thing is a naked motorcycle. Let's say a Panigale V4. Now again, we can't afford these bikes. First, we have to say this. We are only talking about Panigales and all that. But even in the middleweight category, let's say you have the Street Triple or you have the Trident. So whenever I ride those bikes, I think they don't look as attractive, in the sense that inner child doesn't come out.
I say, hold up, wait a minute.
If you see a red Panigale, like with a fully fed motorcycle, so you feel like, there is some emotional bonding with the motorcycle. But naked motorcycles, you think, okay, this is a little practical in that sense. A motorcycle for me, I don't think it has to be practical all the way. But again, coming back to naked motorcycles, they have the performance of a sports bike, but they can also be used on the road, and they sort of fly under the radar in the city, even if you're riding a big bike. So we just did a comparison with the Hypermotard. Hypermotard doesn't, but the Katana. So the Katana is a motorcycle that I absolutely loved, and that's a motorcycle that you can ride. It has 150 bhp or whatever. It's a naked motorcycle, but you can use it everywhere. Day. So, and it looks phenomenal as well. That's the motorcycle that I think probably I'm 30 plus now. So maybe now I think, okay, cool, man, I need something more restrained. But that's the case. Now, ADVs, when I started this job, I'm very lucky. When I started this job, the first time I rode an ADV was, I took I think an Africa Twin and a Tiger 1200. We took it straight away to Spiti. I remember my first time I rode the motorcycle on the track. You won't believe it. For our track test, we had the Tiger, at the racetrack. And the very next day, we just, Jared we used to work here, ex-colleague. So Jared and I, we left for Spiti the very next day on the Africa Twin and the Tiger 1200. And that was the time when I realized that in ADV, especially the big ones, the 1200s and all these bikes, I thought those were the best bikes. You can just glide over everything. And I think there was this stretch between Palampur or somewhere in Himachal, well paved roads, and that's where I realized that ADVs, okay, they look like trucks, but the way they handle the electronics and everything, I was like completely in awe. I thought I'm never going to go back to any other bike. And then again, I rode more ADVs, like I think I did Leh, Ladakh with the Multistrada for 17 days straight. And I was like, Ducati gave me 50% discount or 60% discount at that time. And I said, I'd probably buy this bike. I'll just put everything, I'll probably put my kidneys on sale or something like that, but I wanted that bike so dearly. So that's what happened with ADVs. But over time, I've realized that if you buy an ADV, again, like a sports bike, if you ride it in the city, you look like an idiot, right? And for touring, I don't think, unless and until you have time to explore places, that's where an ADV or adventure tourer makes sense. Because in the city, they don't feel cumbersome actually, but I think you again feel like it's out of its element in the city, even though the rider is not feeling it. But you're riding an ADV, big ADV, in city traffic with the Activas and all that, so it doesn't make sense. Then if you're not doing long distances, I don't think an ADV makes sense in a country like ours. So over time, what I've realized, and now you're saying that you don't like the Street Fighter V4 because you thought it's a motorcycle that is sort of, doesn't do the job of a roadster. But personally, I think the Street Fighter V4, if I had that kind of money, was the bike that I'd buy over a Multistrada V4 or a Panigale. That's because when you take it on the track, it's a bloody Panigale. Like naked Panigale, right? So it has all the electronics, it has all the performance, it'll scare you also, and you never really. And another good thing about a motorcycle, another thing that I want from motorcycle is that it should scare you. Because the moment, we have our colleague Karan, right? He got the Trident. And yesterday we had this discussion, he was telling me that it's a great motorcycle, but he's now sort of growing out of it because it's a very docile motorcycle. It's a very nice motorcycle, but quite docile. So I don't want my motorcycle, like after 1 year of usage, I think, oh no, you know what? I need something more. The Ducati Panigale V4, even if you happen to be a Ducati factory rider, I don't think you're going to think, I need probably more power, more electronics, better handling. Because that motorcycle, it might kill you in the process, no doubt. But you're always on the edge and you're enjoying the art of motorcycling.
The reason I actually prefer like a smaller motorcycle is one more thing. So with me, the thing is, I like to open my throttle fully most of the time. So you can't do that on a big bike. You're always hunting for the right point where you can keep it. On a roadster, on a smaller capacity motorcycle, on any smaller capacity motorcycle for that matter, I know at least I have that much level of vision to be able to accommodate what's coming at me and accordingly, maintain the speeds that I need to be doing. But no matter 90% of times, if I just want to just open the throttle in the middle of a corner or whatever, I mean, smaller capacity motorcycles allow me to do that. Yes, it's not a good way to become like a faster rider because you're not really understanding that discipline.
I think you will become a faster rider because...
No, I'll become a faster rider by learning practically instead of, knowing
Again, you have to understand when you're a motorcycle, you reach the limit in terms of performance. That's where you start exploring other areas, right?
Yeah.
But in a V2 or a V4, you're just always thinking, oh, there's so much power, so much power. So
you're not always thinking, I don't want to crash this because it's going to cost a lot of money.
But if you ride a smaller capacity motorcycle, probably what happens in that case is, it's a 250cc motorcycle. I'm done with the performance. It's manageable. I'm not going to crash it like in a silly way, right? I can handle that kind of power. Yeah. So you start probably doing other things, like you start concentrating on your body positioning, you start learning things on that motorcycle.
Exactly.
Like the R15,
you have the mental capacity, the mental bandwidth to let your subconscious ride the motorcycle, and you can focus on the individual things.
Like a motorcycle that comes to mind is the Yamaha R15. So that has the frame and chassis of a sports bike. Yeah. So what it was a 150cc motorcycle, right? So
I would still buy that bike too.
Yeah, but everyone, I remember every journo, everyone who put their first knee down was on the R15. Why? Because the balance of that motorcycle was phenomenal and its power won't scare you. Yeah. So I think the R15 is a great motorcycle in that sense. It still is actually, right? With that kind of power, the handling of that thing is amazing. So I think if you're starting out, probably an R15 won't hurt you. again, we start off with which was the best
I would
kind of
actually pick an R15 as a great first motorcycle. It's got the amount of power that will keep you engaged for let's say like a year and a half or two. You'll have fun, and it's the motorcycle that will push you to improve your technique. Like even if you're off by a couple of centimeters in your body positioning, you will not feel comfortable on that
It's a very
motorcycle.
forgiving motorcycle.
Yeah, and at this, it'll tell you that this is what you're doing wrong. You know what? Don't worry about it. Try better next time. Hey, wait, you're not supposed to be that hard on the brakes. Just dial it back down. It'll tell. Honestly, even after you have ridden all the motorcycles in the world, you go back to the R15 and it tells you that you know what, you might have ridden everything, but you're doing this wrong. You know what? It would be better if you change that.
Speaking of this, I think the best motorcycle for India, I still maintain, I had this long-term motorcycle, Yamaha R3, is probably the best motorcycle that you'd want in a country like India because, like you said, so I remember I had that motorcycle for over 18 months and I didn't want to return it because it was a phenomenal motorcycle. So what used to happen if I had a big bike, so like you're saying, if I'm doing like 140 on the, let's say, CBR 650, I'd probably think, okay, I can't open the throttle because I'm going too fast. But on the R3, you're like, it's whacked it open, right? So it was sort of motorcycle, the balance it had. It wasn't the sharpest motorcycle, but for daily riding or for a road trip in the hills, I think that was phenomenal. So, okay, cutting everything short. So let's say if you have to buy a motorcycle, don't name brands, but if you have to buy a motorcycle within 300cc, what's your choice? What kind of motorcycle will you pick?
I think
And why?
at 300 cc's, it has to be a roadster for me because that motorcycle allows me to use it in the city. It allows me to take it out on the highway. Like I think the first thing any motorcycle should be able to do is work in a multiple number of, at least for the Indian market. I think abroad you do have people, you do have enthusiasts who'll buy a touring motorcycle just for touring and a track motorcycle just for the track. In India, one motorcycle kind of always has to do it all. So I think in that segment, in the 300cc space, and one more reason that I actually did fail to mention is that reason I love roadsters is because they're simple motorcycles. There's not usually a lot going. You fall on them, you'll not break a fairing. You like the things. It's easier to repair them. Sometimes you can do it yourselves, and when you can actually see your engine right there every day in front of you, it eggs you on. You know what? Let me try this. Let me do that. Maybe I can do this with the bike. Do that.
If I had to pick one kind of motorcycle, I'm not saying again brands, but I'd probably within 300, 350cc, I'd probably pick not the G310R, I'd pick the G310RR or TVS Apache RR310. I had that bike. So I think that motorcycle, you think it's a committed sports bike and all that, but it's a great sports tourer. I've done Delhi to Bombay on that motorcycle within 2 days without breaking a sweat. I enjoyed it a lot. And again, I think it's great in the hills when you're riding. That motorcycle gives you the sort of confidence, the balance that you want from a sports bike or a naked motorcycle. So I think under 300cc, if you want everything from a motorcycle, I think a sports tourer like the RR310 probably does everything for you. I've even done
jack of all trades.
off-roading with the RR310. I went for a 1,000 kilometers road trip with my cousin who was riding a Himalayan. I don't remember a single instance. The roads were all broken, right? I don't remember a single instance where I couldn't keep up with him, right? In fact, in some of the areas, I was like faster than him because I would just stand up and just go. So it's something that an all-rounder sort of motorcycle. So I think in all the sports tourer, not just the RR310, probably a KTM 390 is also a great motorcycle. It's not as committed now, the new motorcycle, and they look good, right? So if you are that kid who wants a fully fed motorcycles, I think under 300cc, I'd probably say under or 300 to 400cc segment, I'd say I'd go for a sports tourer or a super bike sort of look, whatever that super sports you can.
I would want the ZX25R in that.
That's again.
If Santa was listening right now, I would.
So see, again, we are talking about the bikes that are available in India. So now let's talk about the middleweight. If you have to buy 500 to 1000cc, 1000cc is not middleweight, but with Ducati is nearly there, 900, 930.
I mean, I would want something that's a super sport in that area. I've never really liked like bigger super sports, but like a middleweight. Like, okay, again.
Middleweight super sports, I think they are a big compromise because they can't do the things that the big ones can.
Yeah, I don't want to do the things. I mean, my reasoning of being able to do that, like it's, I do not want to push boundaries on a track. I just want to feel fast on a track. I think I'm not about lap times. I'm not someone who's gonna chase lap times, and a lot of the general people are like that. They want to feel the thrill on the track. They do not necessarily want to be like a faster rider. They just want to feel fast, and in that sense, I think like a 600 is like a nice 600 would be enough for me. And that's the reason. I think for the for the higher segment, for the 1000cc segment, is I would actually save something like a GS or like any ADV. Like
I think for me, middleweight category, I'd be confused between an ADV and a roadster. Again, a great motorcycle. So I'd say something like a Triumph Street Triple. The RS was a mad motorcycle, so I haven't ridden the new one. But it'll be kick-ass, I know. Or again, an ADV, a middleweight ADV. So the Tiger 900, let's say, it's a great motorcycle. Even the BMWs are quite nice and they're priced really well. So I think in that segment, I'd probably want something like that. But at the same time, if I had more money, I'd probably buy the Panigale V2 because that's the ultimate sort of middle motorcycle.
Yeah.
So that's there. And of course, if I have to buy a full-blown leader class motorcycle, I'd probably buy a Katana, which is quite cheap relatively, right? So Katana is there, or even the Panigale V4. It scares you, but it's a great motorcycle. But I'd be very tempted to buy a Multistrada V4 as well. But I know Multistrada V4, I'm not going to ride it every day. It's not the sort of motorcycle you can ride every day. If you are a vlogger, if you are an influencer, of course, it's a great motorcycle. So let's say overall, if you think about it, it's the Roadster, right?
it's the Roadster, yeah, I would agree. Like I would probably, barring the top 1000cc segment, I would be comfortable buying a Roadster in any segment.
I think, yeah, like you said, even in the what I said about the G310RR, you can do the same stuff on the G310R also. So I think probably the Roadster.
The Roadster.
It's the
seems to be
motorcycle
the
to
consensus here.
Yeah, I mean across different segments. Okay, so just to wrap it up, what's our conclusion? Roadster wins, right?
I think the Roadster wins across the spectrum that way. It's the most easy motorcycle to pick. When
I mean,
walk
if
into
you
a
have
showroom.
to, you always say that you shouldn't generalize things, but in this case, let's generalize and say like, for once and all, if I think the Roadster or a naked motorcycle works the best in
most conditions.
most conditions. Yeah. Probably it's the best motorcycle for Indian road conditions.
But with that saying, keep in mind that you should think about the kind of motorcycle you want. What you're going to be doing with that motorcycle, that's the most important thing. So keep.
But don't break your arm in the process. That's important. You can do that with any kind of motorcycle, right? But with an ADV, the chances are higher because you jump a little.
Yeah.
So yeah.
ADVs do that. You think about buying them without thinking of that, and then you'll see a jump and you'll immediately go and do that. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about. You need to be a little careful in what kind of motorcycle you're buying.
But the general, basically, the conclusion is it's the Roadster.